Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and welcome once again to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Those of you who are hitting the like button, commenting, sharing the links, I really do appreciate you guys so much. So thank you for supporting me in this little thing I do to talk about horror. Today, we're going to be continuing along with Christmas horror. We're going to be talking about the mean one from 2022. A couple of days ago, we talked about Jack Frost, kind of a silly Christmas horror comedy. I mean, one very similar, although I will say I think I like this one a little bit better, and we'll get into why. The first time I saw this movie a couple of years ago, I really liked it the first time. I thought it was a lot of fun. I did a rewatch then the next year for Christmas and didn't enjoy it as much. Um, had some issues with it. So this was my third time watching this movie, watching it today, getting ready for this episode. And yeah, I'll let you know what I think as I get through this a little bit. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Excuse me, a little tired today and also a little under the weather, so I apologize in advance. But tagline for the film: Slashing Through the Snow. Brief synopsis for the movie: In a sleepy mountain town, Cindy witnesses the murder of her mother by a bloodthirsty green figure in a red Santa suit. 20 years later, the Christmas hating monster begins to terrorize the town once more, and Cindy finds new purpose in stopping the creature and saving the holiday. The film was released on December 9th, 2022, directed by Stephen Lamort, screenplay by Flip and Finn Cobbler, uh, story by Stephen Lamort, based, of course, on the book from 1957 by Dr. Seuss called How the Grinch Stole Christmas, produced by Amy Schumacher, Stephen Lamort, and Martine Blau. Cinematography done by Christopher Sheffield, music by Yale Benamor, distributed by Atlas Film Distribution, a runtime of 93 minutes. I could not find the budget for this film, but it made $1 million at the box office, so probably not successful, not big. I'll stop there for a moment, like I always do, and talk about the cinematography, the score, and the story. um, there are some things about this that I like. As I said, uh, the cinematography, I don't think this really looks bad. Um, I love the look of the Grinch. I think the Grinch looks so cool in this, even though he's not referred to as the Grinch, the mean one, I guess is what I should be saying. Um, I like that look. I think they did a great job with that character design. Growing up as a kid, I watched Rudolph, I watched Frosty, I watched all these different things. But my favorite Christmas cartoon as a kid was always How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I absolutely loved it. Um, Still, excuse me again, I'm so sorry. Still, occasionally we'll watch it. I'm a Grinch guy. I have a Grinch coffee mug. I should have brought it in here. Um, I own this movie on a Blu-ray steelbook. I've got a few Grinch things around here and there, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the Grinch. So the idea of this movie sounded so cool to me, and I really like the look of the Grinch. Haven't got into the cast yet. We'll get around to that here in a moment and talk about that. But yeah, I think the Grinch looks cool. The kills are not bad. There are some good kills in this. It is silly. Funny at times, I guess. There's a couple of humorous moments. The score, it's just there. Nothing major to talk about with the score. I mean, it's a lot of Christmas music for the most part. The story, I think, is interesting. It's somewhat cool. There might be a few things I would have done differently because there are some things in this story that, while I like and appreciate what they tried to do, there are some things that I don't like about this story as well and what they did with it. And we'll get into that more as we go through the plot. Cast for the film: David Howard Thornton, Crystal Martin, Chase Mullins, Josh Bigham, Eric Baker, and Amy Schumacher. Of course, David Howard Thornton is the mean one, and he's fantastic in this. It's so funny to go back and watch. This movie at times has a Terrifier vibe, just in the way um, some of the kills are done, and some of the gore that we get. Nowhere near on the Terrifier level, but it's there a little bit. And then just watching David Howard Thornton portray Art the Clown in Terrifier, and watching him portray the mean one, even watching him portray the Steamboat Willie character in Screamboat, you see it. His feel, his vibe is all over the movie, and I think he does a phenomenal job here as the mean one. I really like his performance. He carries this film, honestly. So if you're a fan of his and watching the way he does things, then there's one thing for you about this movie that I think you would enjoy, because I think he's great as the mean one in this. The rest of the cast is fine. Um, there are some performances that I don't think are solid in this. That's one of the problems I had with the film the second time I watched it, earlier. Some of the acting is not great in this movie. I hate to say that because I probably wouldn't be a good actor. I'd like to think I would, but in all honesty, I probably wouldn't. So some of the performances are fine. There are a few here that do a decent job, but there's also a couple of other major characters in the movie that I don't think the performances are good, and that does hurt this. Um, but overall, again, David Howard Thornton carries this movie. There are some other decent performances as far as the characters in this film. I think this is one of those where when I look at these characters, other than the character of Doc Zeus, there's really not any characters in this film I like. I know you're supposed to be behind Cindy. I don't like this character primarily because of the performance. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. Um, the one sheriff's deputy there, Officer Burke, he's okay, I guess, but Doc Zeus for me is kind of the comic relief in this film. I think other people are supposed to be at times, and it just doesn't land. But I like the Doc Zeus character. I think he's funny, and then I like the mean one. So this is one of those movies where I would have been fine had the mean one killed everybody, just because that's why I watched this. That's what I like about this, and that so. I would have been fine if we had gone another way and let the mean one kill everybody. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there. Uh, let's go ahead and, as far as production notes, not a lot out there for this movie to find. I always try to find something that I can mention that might be somewhat interesting. I really couldn't find anything for this film. I did make a quick note here that in October of 2022, XYZ Films announced that they were working in collaboration with others on a unauthorized horror parody of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But then in November of 2022, Atlas Film Distribution took over and would release the film with XYZ no longer being involved. Because this is an unauthorized film, the language had to be changed from the original book. They couldn't actually use the word Grinch, little things like that. So, just a few things here and there, but again, nothing too interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into the plot, walk through this and talk about this one. So opening scene, we kind of get some narration going on. We see Cindy as a little girl. I do like the fact that the opening part here is kind of the narration of what the book would be like and supposedly the happy ending. But then the narrator mentions that that's not how it went down. We do see then Cindy coming down. She does find this green character in a Santa suit at the tree. Asks him why he's doing this. But then she, ends up telling him that it's okay. She gives him a necklace that she's wearing, gives him a little kiss on the cheek, and you kind of get the impression that everything's fine. But then Cindy's mom comes downstairs and is scared by this creature that she sees, and she begins to try to kill this creature. Instead, the creature accidentally, as he just pushes Cindy's mom, and she ends up falling on a nail that goes into her neck. But with the mom then laying there dying, Cindy calls the creature a monster, and the monster ends up taking off. We don't get a great look here at the creature, so this opening scene is okay. I feel like it's setting the pace a little bit for what we're going to be getting. Again, the one thing I did appreciate was I like the way the narrator starts off with the original story, but then backs up and says that's not the way it happened, and starts to give you this version. I like the way that was done. And yeah, I mean, this is a fine opening. It serves its purpose. It setting the stage for what we have coming. I don't really have a problem with this opening. It's fine. Again, I don't think it's mind-blowingly good, but it's fine. It does what it needs to do. From there, we now go 20 years later, and Cindy has returned to the town of Newville with her father. She's still having nightmares. She's still having a lot of issues with what happened with her mother, but she's returning here to try to enjoy Christmas again and put her past, in the past. And upon arriving with her father, they meet Officer Burke. They're driving with some reindeer things on the side of the car, and he pulls them over and lets them know it's a safety issue and they've got to come down. But you kind of see something there between Cindy and Officer Burke, which is fine. She does see Sheriff Hooper. We get kind of a flashback to Sheriff Hooper being there. showing up the night her mother was killed, and the police investigating and that kind of thing. Hooper still doesn't believe her story of what happened that night as a child, and Hooper reveals to them, her and her father, that this town just doesn't celebrate Christmas anymore. They don't sell Christmas decorations. They don't put up anything. They just don't celebrate Christmas in this town. Again, I think we're just getting a setup here. The hint there at the moment between Officer Burke and Cindy seems a little rushed and maybe a little forced. And the performances here concern me a little bit. I think the gentleman who's playing Sheriff Hooper does a good job. Everybody else here, I'm kind of questioning. Maybe Cindy's dad is okay, I guess. His name is Lou. He seems fine. But I right off the bat was a little concerned. I remember, the first time I saw this movie, as I said, I really enjoyed it. I think I just had so much fun with knowing that there was a Grinch horror movie that I overlooked a lot. The second time I watched the movie, the performances stood out to me a lot more. And so I didn't like them. This movie really dropped a lot for me the second time I watched it. Watching it today, I was kind of on the lookout for that and curious as to how I would feel about that. I don't think these performances are great. The gentleman playing Officer Burke is okay. I just don't, I hate to say this. I really hate, to be negative about someone and the way they're performing, but I just don't think the actress who's playing Cindy here, her performance lands for me. I do still have some issues with it. And so this second little section of the film, as we're continuing along now with our setup, it's just mediocre as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of it is performance based. From there, though, that night, back at their old house, Lou and Cindy find their old Christmas decorations, and they begin to decorate the house and dance around and start trying to celebrate Christmas a little bit. This seems to trigger the monster. The monster shows up. Cindy goes to take the trash out. We see the monster appear in the house behind Lou. There's a little bit of a battle, and then the monster ends up killing Cindy's dad. She tries to get back into the house and can't. The door's locked, but she sees it happen through the door. And we kind of get a good kill there. The monster killing Lou. He gets stabbed through the eye. Not a bad kill. Little better scene here, I think, than what we were getting before. This is fine. This kind of pulls you back in, or pulled me back in, and got me back on board with it a little bit. The monster also steals the decorations. And then Cindy wakes up in the hospital. When she wakes up, she meets Mayor McBean. She also talks with the police a little bit. Still no one really believing her as far as exactly what happened. The funeral comes up. We see the mayor and the sheriff talking, and we can tell that there's something going on with them and the way this creature is killing people and them not believing it or trying to hide it, cover it up maybe. In cleaning up her house, Cindy finds this rare flower and is able to trace it back to this nearby mountain. She finds this website. She's able to trace this flower back to this nearby mountain. And upon going there, she finds a missing person's wallet, but she also sees the creature again, attack another couple, ends up killing the guy, injuring the woman. The police show up. The woman didn't get a very good look at the attacker, so she can't say what it is, but Cindy's trying to tell the police and the sheriff that it is the same creature that attacked and killed her mother and her father. The sheriff is basically telling Cindy to stop all this talk about this creature, but Burke seems to believe her and want to help. Again, I think here we're kind of getting the relationship between Burke and Cindy forced. I don't feel like this feels very natural. Maybe it's because of performances. But I also feel like it just feels rushed. These two don't know each other. She's back in town for a minute, and there's something going on between them. And this funeral, her dad's just been killed. If there's still something going on between them, it feels very forced and very rushed to me. And so I wasn't buying that part of this film at all. Obviously, the sheriff not wanting this talked about, and after the conversation that we saw between the sheriff and the mayor, you are beginning to suspect some kind of cover up here. So I feel like it's a little easy to read and a little easy to figure out what's going on. And that kind of begins to get to my thoughts on this film as I'm getting, watching this again today. Because the next scene, let me talk about this scene and then I'll tell you what I mean. We get this bus that's coming to town with a bunch of people dressed up in Santa Claus outfits, kind of some cosplay type thing going on. And they go to this bar to have a little Christmas party. And the creature ends up showing up and killing all of them. This is a fun scene. I think we get some good kills again here. love David Howard Thornton's performance here as the mean one and like these kills. So I really did enjoy this scene. And here's what I feel like the overall thing, as we're probably about halfway through the movie at this time, but here's where I feel like my thoughts go where this movie is concerned. David Howard Thornton does carry this film, and his performance as the mean one is like his performance as Art the Clown. It's great, and it's what carries this film. The scenes that he's not in just don't feel well done. The performances don't feel good. The plot feels forced and unnatural. At this point in the movie, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't really care about any of these people. I just want to see the mean one, and I just want to see the mean one killing people, which is fine because, a lot of times you watch a Friday the 13th movie because you want to see Jason taking out people, or you watch a Halloween movie because you want to see Michael taking out people. Watching this, you want to see the mean one taking out people. But I feel like at least in most of those Friday the 13th or Halloween or those other slasher films like that, we are getting decent performances or decent setup or something, that are adding to it. And I'm not sure that we are here. I feel like that's what they're trying to do. We're trying to get a setup. We're trying to tell a story, but it just doesn't seem to flow very well. Mostly performance based, but also because just there are things in it that feel so unnatural and forced. From here, the creature goes back to Cindy's house. He tries to break in to get to Cindy, but he is scared off by Doc Zeus, who I do like that character. Again, Doc Zeus, that character is very funny. I like that character. Doc Zeus ends up telling Cindy that he believes her. The creature also killed his wife. I think it was like 11 years prior, but the sheriff didn't believe him either. He's kind of the comic relief in the movie. Again, he has some funny scenes, and there's one of the better scenes in the movie here that doesn't actually involve the mean one. Again, because they can't use the actual language from the book. There's a scene here where Doc Zeus and Cindy are sitting in this bar, and they're talking, and he's telling her his story, and they're talking about what went on. And every time, as he's telling her his story, every time he gets ready to say the Grinch, a waitress in the back, screams that there's an order up for Mr. Finch. So it's just kind of funny the way they did that. I remember it the first time I watched this movie and thought it was a little bit humorous the way they did it. And watching it again today, I still like that scene. I thought it was comical. That part of the humor landed for me. So I did like that scene and the way they tried to cover that up. Again, the sheriff's still not helping, but Officer Burke will help because obviously he's got the hots for Cindy here apparently. And so he goes to the mountain. He finds more missing wallets. He finds the creature's hideout. He finds some bodies. He and Cindy continue to bond. And then we get one of the sillier scenes in the movie, in my opinion. It just doesn't fit, and I just don't like the way they do it. But there's a scene where Cindy basically has decided that she's going to have to battle the mean one. And so she's working out. She's practicing with guns. She's also like boxing this dummy and doing these workouts. It's almost like a Rocky montage, like you got in all the Rocky films, only it's Cindy, and it's just so silly, and it just doesn't work for me. I remember the first time I watched this movie, even though I enjoyed it, this was the one part the first time that I didn't enjoy because I just thought it was dumb. The second time I watched this movie, there were a lot of things that I picked up on that I didn't like, but this was still my least favorite part. And now watching it again today for the third time, I'm like, I hate this scene. I absolutely hate this scene. It just doesn't fit in this movie. It's so silly. It's just, yeah, again, it's more things being forced in that just don't work. So it really bothers me here. And that's still my least favorite scene of the movie. We do get another kill from the creature there. He kills this diner owner. Again, another decent kill. Very Art the Clown-esque Terrifier type kill here. Doc Zeus is drunk, so he ends up getting arrested and put in jail. Burke reveals to Cindy that upon his investigation, what he's discovered is these missing people were all hikers that were lured to the mountains by a website, the same website that Cindy seemed to use to find out where this flower was. And this website is actually run by Mayor McBean, who is wanting everything completely covered up. We then cut to McBean trying to leave town as her and the sheriff realize that everything is falling apart, but she has some car trouble and the creature kills her. Decent kill, nothing special there, but a decent kill. One of the characters in the movie that you really don't like, so it's fun to see them get killed. Um, Bird confronts the sheriff, and the sheriff reveals the whole backstory here is that this creature would come around every December and start killing people. And so, in a way to try to protect the town, he and Mayor McBean came up with this plan where they basically have, because the sheriff was investigating and he found um, the creature's hideout. So he and McBean end up basically shutting down Christmas in the town, not allowing any Christmas celebrations or decorating. And they create this website to lure tourists in as sacrifices to the creature to try to keep the creature at bay to protect the people in their town. I'm okay with this part of the story. It's a little forced, but I'm okay with that to give us some backstory as to why the things that are happening, and as to why the town is trying to cover it up. This is the one part of the story that I don't feel like is forced in, so I feel like this works, and I'm okay with it. Um, Burke goes up into the mountains, then he ends up getting injured, but the sheriff shows up and saves him. Cindy and Doc also arrive there in the mountains. Um, the sheriff has a kind of a change here and decides to try to find the creature and get rid of it, but he ends up being killed by the creature. Um, Cindy ends up going home, where she's basically trying to set the creature up. She goes home and she turns on the Christmas lights and is trying to draw the creature in, and her setup works. The creature comes in, and just when he thinks he's got Cindy, she reveals that she's ready for him. She's also got Doc outside. Doc shoots the creature a few times. Creature attacks Doc, but of course Cindy intervenes, and then we get the battle that I guess we've been waiting for between Cindy and this creature. That's okay. Um, it's not great, but I mean, again, I don't know. I think this is what a lot of the training that we were seeing earlier with Cindy was for. She's got weapons that are painted like candy canes. It's kind of funny. I mean, there's some things here that are okay. Um, but I think because I don't like this character and I don't like this performance of this character, I kind of would like to have seen the green, the mean one just wipe her out, I guess, which then destroys the purpose of the movie. So I get that. But she does end up kind of getting finally the upper hand on the creature. But right as she goes to get ready to kill him, she sees that he's still wearing the necklace that he gave her when she was a child. She then somehow realizes that the creature never meant to harm anyone, but was triggered when she called him a monster. And that's what set him off on this rampage. So even though this creature has killed her mother and her father and all these other people now, she decides to forgive him. Again, very forced plot going on here. She gives the creature a kiss again, but this is the moment where this touches the creature. He changes, his heart grows, but in the process of his heart growing, it ends up exploding, killing the creature. Silly on everything that led up to it, but I like then that being put in, because that's the big part of the Grinch story is his heart grows and he ends up saving Christmas rather than stealing it. Here, his heart grows and that ends up being what kills him. So, kind of a fun thing there, and I like the fact that they did use that. I just wish the execution leading up to it would have been better, because the story leading up to it I don't think was great. Again, that's where I say I think there's some things that could have been done a little bit differently in this, this being one of them. But now that the creature is gone, the town becomes a tourist attraction. It starts celebrating Christmas again. We see that Cindy and Burke are now together. The narrator's closing things out, but then the narrator makes the comment that everybody was happy and everything was great, at least until next year. And then you hear the creature roar, and that's the end of the film. And that's the main one. Again, here this movie is so back and forth for me in my head, because there are some things about this movie that I really do like. Again, love David Howard Thornton's performance as the mean one. I think he's great. I like this creature. I like the look of the creature. There are some really good kills in this, I feel like. So I like the kills, love the creature, love David Howard Thornton's performance. Really enjoy the way some of the things from the, that old How the Grinch Stole Christmas story are brought in and tied to this. But then there are other things about this movie that I just don't like at all. Some of the performances, some of the plot points seeming so forced and unnatural. This movie is like a roller coaster to me, because there are parts in the film watching it that I'm really enjoying it. And I'm like, I'm so glad they made this movie, and this is something that I'm going to watch every year at Christmas time because I have for the last, probably 3 years now. Um, and then there are other times where I'm like, this is so stupid. Why? Why are we doing this? Why was this necessary? So this movie is constantly back and forth in my head the whole time I'm watching it. I don't like it as much as I did the first time I saw it when I really enjoyed the film, but I don't dislike it as much as I did that second time. So I'm very much in the middle ground on this one. I think it's definitely better than Jack Frost, which I recently talked about. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a middle of the road film for me. I think just because of David Howard Thornton's performance as the mean one and how much I love that character, I'm going to score it a little higher than I might normally. But I'm still not going to score it that high because there's so many other things here that are just silly and don't work. So for me, the mean one from 2022, on my scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 6. 6 out of 10 for me for the mean one. Yeah, and that will wrap this up. David Howard Thornton carries this film. Now I want to know what you think. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Do you enjoy it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Yeah, just share with me your thoughts on the mean one. I'm very curious as to what you think. So please hit the like button for me today. Hit the hype button. Try to help me continue to grow the channel. I feel like things have kind of leveled off a little bit now as far as the numbers and views are down a little bit. So do whatever you can to help me to continue to grow this. Yeah, because it's fun for me, so I'll just keep going. But let me know, like I said, what you think about the mean one. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the like button, leave me some comments, follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there: Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, X. I have a letterbox. Yeah, I use it all. So follow me on social media. I do try to follow back. I will be back in a couple of days with my friend Aaron from A&B Horror Movies, and he and I are going to be talking about the original Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984 as we wrap up the holidays and finish up Christmas. This episode is Christmas Eve. So I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. Silent Night, Deadly Night will be coming out the day after Christmas. We'll wrap up Christmas that way, and then we'll get back into some other things and, continue to have a good time. So subscribe and follow me along, like, comment, all the stuff, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much.